Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. This is the Ontario Network of CAPC CPNP projects annual presentation that we offer to our funder and our network members, our funder, Public Health Agency of Canada. And we'll get into some introductions and hellos. Before we do that, I would like to take a moment to offer a land acknowledgement. I've written a few things down. I'm a little extra nervous today because, it's the big important presentation. So forgive me for doing a bit of reading. But before we begin, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the land from which we're joining today. As the sponsor agency for our network, Communal Mental Health and Wellbeing is based in Kitchener, Ontario, on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe Haudenosaunee peoples. This land is part of the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. We also recognize our network members are joining today from many territories from what is now called Ontario. These are lands stewarded by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. These include, but are not limited to, the territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, Cree, Algonquin, Mississaugas of the Credit, Mushkegowuk, Métis, and Inuit communities. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge not only the peoples, but the lands themselves, the rivers, the skies, the rocks, the medicines that sustain us. Taking this moment together allows us to pause, which I can use when I get this pause, to connect with the spirit of the land and to begin together in a good way, with gratitude, respect, and a reminder of our responsibilities to each other in this place. We're committed to learning from Indigenous ways of knowing and being, and to acting in support of truth, reconciliation, and justice in all aspects of our work. Miigwech, thank you for joining us. And it's not a long time. We won't keep you for too long. This is a short presentation. Hopefully it's about a half an hour. And then we'll have some time for some discussion and Q&A. I would like to welcome some of our guests here, starting with the representatives here from Public Health Agency of Canada. I know that Nicole Gibbons and Nancy Bolton and Blanca are here. Welcome. And of course, we've been Michelle. And you pointed out Rosetta Carmen. Hello, welcome. Nicole, would you like to say hello? Or you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, my name is Nicole. Sorry, my name is Nicole Gibbons, and I'm joining you actually today from British Columbia, where I'm able to live, laugh, love, and work on the traditional and unceded territory of the Semi-Yamos people. I am the new program manager for the Ontario region on assignment, so I should say acting. I'm replacing Alana Powell, who I'm sure you guys know. I come over to you from Pacific and Economic Development Canada, and I joined PHAC um, 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So this is great timing for me to learn a lot about the programs. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great to have you here. Thank you, Nicole, and welcome to all of our friends from the Ontario office. It's really great to have you here. I also want to take a moment to, oh, sorry, I'm clicking buttons here and things are popping up. Okay. We have some coordinating committee members here, and I just would like to acknowledge them. You can give a wave. On my screen, I see Colleen Gellman, Ross Bell. Hello, Colleen. I see Katrina Clark. Hello, Katrina. Southwest Zone. I'm blanking on everything else. Sorry, Katrina. Krista Ponton is a relatively new coordinating committee member from the Northwest Zone. Is that right, Krista? I hope that's right. And who else do I see? Yvette Bachtel-Drew. Hello, Yvette. Welcome, Central Zone Rep. Uh, Nettie Wall is here. Hello, Nettie. She's Southwest Zone Rep. And Bhupinder here is is joining us as well from Central Zone. Did I miss any coordinating committee members who are here? Glad to have you here. We'll be talking a lot about your work in the next little while. Is there anybody who's we have zone chairs as well. If there are zone chairs here, I would like to acknowledge that. I'm not seeing right now, but I want to acknowledge our zone chairs who do a lot of work for our network. And with that, did I lose everybody? Okay, with that, I'd like to say hello to Debbie Engel, who is director with Camino Mental Health and Wellbeing, the network sponsor agency. And Debbie said that she'd offer a hello.
I would offer hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. As Sydney said, I'm Debbie Engel. My pronouns are she, her. And I am a Community and Youth Development Director with Camino, which is based out of Kitchener-Waterloo. And we are the sponsoring agency. I want to welcome Public Health Agency of Canada staff. Nicole, I think it's great. You're coming in at a great time to hear about the work that the coordinating committee and the network does. I really appreciate and want to share my appreciation for the coordinating committee. So there are 11 active members who are across the 5 zones who come together to really provide leadership and strategic planning to support all of the partner CAPC CPNP projects across Ontario. And Sydney is the backbone support for that. She's like the keeper of all, that we would be lost without her. And I know that from the Public Health Agency of Canada, when I think about the call for proposals that came out, all of those things, Sydney and her leadership really supported partners and public health to get their messages out. And we really are an ecosystem. We're an ecosystem that comes together to really ensure that people are supported across the province. And Sydney acts across the country because she works with other projects across the country. But we really appreciate Public Health Agency of Canada taking the time to be able to hear about the great work that happens. My gratitude to my coordinating committee and Sydney for making this work seamless. And I hope today that you get the opportunity to see the level of work that happens with a network this size and the impact that it has across the province and ultimately for the people that we serve. And so I look forward to Sydney sharing about this and our co-chairs. And I'm open to questions at the end of all of this. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I would also like to welcome, we have just a wonderful group of network members who are here. And when we moved to doing these annual meetings online, one of the benefits was we were able to send out a wide invitation to our projects across Ontario. So it's wonderful to see people take an interest and come. And I thought it might be fun just to do a quick poll and get a sense of who is here today. So hopefully that's popped up for you, that you can share what program you're coming from, CAPC or CPNP, your role, and what zone. And we can just get a quick sense of who is in the room. Just give a couple minutes.
Yes, Margaret, I always get mixed up on my zone. Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay,
Yeah.
that's the Northwest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Sherry.
No, I'm glad you asked, and I'm
Yeah, I know.
going to normalize asking because it's a good thing to. It's perfectly okay. Okay, I think we are close to having everybody having shared here. Yes. Okay, so let me share the results, and we have We have mostly folks from a blend of CAPC and CPNP, and then an even distribution from others. Lots of program facilitators and supervisors here, with some dietitian, nutritionists, and admin, and PHAC staff. And let's see, who sort of wins the race? Is it a tie between Central and Southwest Zone? So both get gold medals, followed up by Northwest with a strong showing of 21%. And then Northeast and Eastern, and some folks outside Ontario are not knowing. But it's wonderful to have you all here. And thank you for participating in our poll. So I think I'm going to go into my my slide deck, and let's just get going and talking about our network here. Okay, I wasn't expecting my computer to do what it just did. Let me try again. It took over both screens, and I don't want to do that. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to do this another way. Okay. Excellent. And look, now I can still see all your faces. Okay. I'm not talking into a void. All right, so welcome to our presentation. And as this slide shares, that our network connects over 175 CAPC and CPNP projects across Ontario. We see our role as building capacity through learning opportunities, connection, leadership, and knowledge translation. I wanted to add that we are now in year 5 of a 6-year extended work plan. And we saw last year, 2024-25, as a high impact year marked by strategic expansion in evaluation capacity, strengthening member engagement, and preparation for this 2026-2030 funding cycle under the newly named Community Action for Prenatal and Child Health Program. Did I get that right? I think that's right. That's the new name. Okay. So really, to begin, we are going to begin with our network coordinating committee. Really, very broadly, our coordinating committee does provide that collaborative leadership and strategic guidance for our network. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. What does that look like? Debbie mentioned we have 11 active coordinating committees currently. Each of the 5 zones has an opportunity to send 3 representatives. And we wanted to point out that the coordinating committee recently made a shift in our terms of reference from a 2 to a 3-year term, really to support continuity, which I think just again is another great demonstration of the commitment that people have to doing this work. We thought it would be interesting to tally up the hours of effort that are often done off the side of the desk while doing so much already for their projects, and we came to approximately 473 plus hours combined for that these folks are providing for our network. And the little graph here shows 198 hours in our regular monthly meetings, 132 hours for our annual meetings that we do, and then engagement in zone meetings at 132 hours, and then plus a few hours for just miscellaneous answering emails, all the emails that I send out. So we really wanted to mention that, just to give, paint a picture of the work that goes into the support of our network. We also wanted to highlight the commitment of the coordinating committee to meaningful engagement with truth and reconciliation and connecting with Indigenous projects. Currently, what that looks like is dedicated truth and reconciliation discussions at coordinating committee meetings on a quarterly basis, 4 times a year. A commitment to expanding Indigenous project sharing circles based on sort of the success that we've had in previous years. And another example this year was response to feedback from our steering committee and increasing Indigenous project engagement for the evaluation toolkit development. And I'll be telling you more about the evaluation toolkit as we go along. Please feel free to, ask questions at any time. Happy to answer any questions you may have. So, make sure, where am I here? So we're going to then talk now a little bit about highlights of this past year, 2024-25. And, among those highlights was a growing evaluation capacity, amplifying diverse voices, and strengthening a sense of community across the network. And we'll try to show you some examples of that. The first example that we have are our annual events include 2 major special events. And we do this every year. Every year in May, we host a maternal mental health awareness event. And then in November, another event acknowledging a National Child Day. So last year, our maternal mental health awareness event had a guest speaker, Vanny Jane, and a network panel discussion. And then our National Child Day event highlighted quite a well-known speaker, Dr. Jean Clinton, who's always very well received in our network and enjoyed by many people. We were very delighted by the turnout to these events. You can see we had 79 people at the maternal mental health event and 203 participants at the National Child Day. Certainly Jean Clinton is a name that draws attendance for sure. But also these numbers were supported, as Debbie mentioned, by our national connections, which is another beautiful benefit of our sort of online virtual space, that we're able to have our friends from other provinces join us for some of these larger special events. Another project that we like to highlight from last year was the development of an evaluation toolkit. This project was in partnership with the Center for Community-Based Research, CCBR, and let me just make sure here. Notes. So provided practical, accessible tools for needs assessment and impact evaluation, and was guided by a volunteer steering committee whose leadership helped increase engagement with Indigenous projects, because we had folks on that steering committee willing to speak up and say, no, we need to do better in engaging with Indigenous projects. So we were able to work to have more culturally safe and inclusive practices. So this toolkit will launch sometime this year. Last year was all the work of sort of getting it together, creating it, doing focus groups and that kind of thing. And then we'll be launching it this year. We do like to acknowledge that the Center for Community-Based Research is a long-standing partner with our network, and we're really glad to have ongoing opportunities to work with this organization. And our partnership with them is really built over time and shared values. Yeah, I think that's Well, I also wanted to acknowledge that it's, I think, a timely resource for this network coming up in the next few years, as the changes in the funding applications now, including a needs assessment. We're hoping that this will be helpful to projects as they gear up for the 2030 submission. Okay, so moving on to talking a little bit about our project activities and participation with network members. We would say that the network's wide-ranging activities this year highlighted innovation, partnership, and a strong commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. These initiatives enhanced evaluation capacity, strengthened peer support, and created spaces for inclusive dialogue. I've got a little slide here that gives you a quick snapshot of how we did this year across our key deliverables, our objectives that we had outlined in our work plan. And we're really pleased to have exceeded expectations in areas like learning circles, webinars, and the annual conference. What was really exciting was a significant increase in zone meeting participation by 20%. We also met our goal of forming 2 new Indigenous partnerships last year, which was a meaningful step toward deeper engagement. That said, we know there's still work to do when it comes to representation at the leadership level, right? Really nurturing engagement and filling those coordinating committee spots in each zone with Indigenous project reps. So on the flip side, we had a challenge with our newsletter subscription goal. We're reviewing that target just to make sure it's actually a reasonable one going forward. And also acknowledging we didn't meet our goal for increased submissions to the Knowledge Center, and we're working on now new strategies to nurture and grow that resource on WebConnex. So it becomes hopefully a go-to space for sharing tools and practices. So this gives you an idea of some of the things that we did, some of our activities, right? We had learning circles. And learning circles are more informal spaces, maybe not with necessarily a designated speaker, outside expert, but more spaces where we're getting together, talking and learning from one another. But we also did hold 7 webinars across the year where we did have people with wisdom and knowledge to share who came and provided learning spaces for us. At our annual online conference, which is a 2-day virtual event, we had 308 participants and really strong positive evaluation feedback. And as I mentioned before, Zoom meetings, which are also held virtually in all 5 of the regional areas of our province, we saw a 20% increase in participation, which was, we thought, really exciting. In our time together today, we wanted to think about, well, why is this important, and offer some of our thoughts as to why it's important. And the first one here, as it says on the slide, is access equity. Our virtual format, our virtual home that we host our network events, we feel supports engagement from rural, remote, and under-resourced sites. And brings more people into the conversation. We also feel our activities supported capacity building. Sessions were not just sort of a passive one-way information sharing. We had spaces that were, holding space for building leadership, evaluation, and I think really importantly, peer learning. Sharing and talking and learning from one another. And an example of that is that, we were sharing real world adaptations. Definitely as we navigated the pandemic together, that was happening quite a bit. And now I'm finding as we're in post-pandemic, I'm hearing people share about, how are they blending both sort of in-person and virtual programming ideas, and ongoing questions are around outreach and engaging with hard to reach families, and how are we doing trauma-informed work, for example. And then we wanted to reflect on what does this mean for the future. And some of our thoughts this year are that, the lessons from the past year, they're already shaping our 2026, 2030 planning. They certainly shaped the funding application, our ISFR, that we submitted, especially in areas like knowledge sharing, evaluation, and regional collaboration. We do recognize that engagement with Indigenous projects is that invitation to really be recognized as the foundation for deeper, more representative engagement going forward. And we believe that the high turnouts we experience across events and regional activities really confirms a high demand, reinforcing an ongoing need for coordination, connection, and facilitation at a provincial level. Okay, I know I'm talking quite a bit. Again, feel free to ask questions if you have them. But we're just going to go into talking a little bit about evaluation now for just a few slides. Our network, our primary focus was the completion of a comprehensive needs assessment, which was, a task that came to putting forward our funding application. And that really served as the main evaluation sort of focus for our last year. But we'll give you a quick little snapshot of the activities that we engaged in. Certainly every event that we held had an opportunity for network feedback through surveys. We did a large annual survey in January, which had 41 responses. And frankly, that was an increase in response rates. So we were really glad to see that. We tried something new last year. We started, instead of doing, in previous years, we had done, 2 or 3 larger surveys with the network, but when we found those response rates were going down, we let go of doing so many surveys and instead moved to a monthly check-in question model where we would bring a question across the network to Zoom meetings and on web connects and access through the newsletter. And we found that to be a much more effective way to gain feedback from network members. And other activities included a zone trends review that coordinating committee members and zone chairs shared their thoughts, and our coordinating committee members also engaged in a focus group. Okay, so we had some key findings from our needs assessment. And so it's probably not surprising to hear that, sustained sort of funding is, is high up there to support program stability. We also heard about the need for enhanced support for culturally safe and trauma-informed practices. We heard about greater opportunities are needed for regional collaboration and shared learning, and that there was a strong emphasis on addressing systemic barriers to equity, access, and service integration. So, those were the key findings from our needs assessment. So now we're moving into kind of wrapping things up here, but we are also trying something new this year in that I invited network members to see if they were able to join us today and, share some thoughts verbally. And I did have one brave soul, Melanie. Hey, Melanie. Melanie Whittington from CAPC in York Region, and agreed to come and, for a minute, give us some thoughts on your experience with the network. So, hey, how are you?
You. Yeah, I'm wonderful. Thank you. So my name's Melanie, obviously. I have been actually with CAPC York Region only for a year and a half. I came to this position back in September of 2023. And I come from a licensed childcare background. So I'd been in licensed childcare for 18 years as an educator, followed then by a supervisor. And I felt like I needed a change, but I wanted to stay in kind of a support role for families, as I'm very passionate about working with children and families. But this was a very new role for me and very different experience. And I didn't know anything about CAPC. I hadn't unfortunately heard about it before. I didn't really know about the program model until I came on board. And I have to say that the network is really kind of what helped me get along that first year. And definitely since then, I echo what Debbie was saying about not only the network, but Sydney being kind of an ecosystem, because it really is this safe space to come to hear about resources, to hear about what other programs are doing, to be able to bring those into our programming and to bring that information back to our staff. It really just becomes this kind of best practice of being able to share information and I would say everything from programming materials to we were able to join the Second Harvest Food Network to be able to rescue food for some of our families. And that came about from another project sharing that's who they use. And I had never heard of it before. So I just rescued 3 boxes of crackers for families that are still good food, that weren't even close to the expiry date, that were going to be thrown in the garbage, and are now being able to be used within our programs for our families. So from that to learning circles, there was definitely a wealth of support through the ISFR process. This was my first needs assessment that I'd ever done and my first funding proposal. So to be able to come onto the zone meetings or the network meetings to be able to hear what other people were feeling and to hear their information was definitely a huge support for me. And I don't think I would have got through the process without them. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done and for the knowledge translation, the leadership, and the ability to connect with other people that are in the same boat as us.
That's great. Thank you so much, Melanie. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that and being so nimble at a last minute request. So that's really awesome. Thank you. So now we're going to move into just the last section of the presentation here. Let me get back. So moving into kind of a summary and our next steps. I want to acknowledge some challenges that we have going forward, ongoing gaps in Indigenous leadership representatives. There are quite a few of our zones currently do not have that spot filled on the coordinating committee. So that is a work that we have ahead of us, which can be actually tied to this next challenge of acknowledging that many of the Indigenous projects are smaller and or remote, and we're really asking a lot then of those project staff to, when they're wearing so many hats, to then also carve out time to give. We saw how many hours our coordinating committee leadership sort of offers, and that's a much bigger challenge for smaller projects. So if we want that increased Indigenous project engagement, we need to, make our way through that challenge. And certainly the changes in the CAPC and CPNP project funding, the uncertainty moving to just going through the application now for 2026 and then moving to a competitive a funding application in 2030 is a significant challenge. And as a non-service delivery project, the network is slated to not have funding as of 2030. So we can't deny that that is a significant challenge. But related to that, we are very committed to responsible sunset planning and being thoughtful and aware of how this network will be winding down. It was a significant part of our application for 2026, where we submitted a clear and responsible sunsetting plan. And we looked at timelines, transition support, knowledge documentation, and we remain committed to transparency, care, and supporting a strong close to this phase of collective work. However, that doesn't mean there's not hope, that there might be, things might change, might shift. You can always, plan for the worst and hope for the best. And what we're hearing from our members is that how much they value the coordinated support for learning, connection, and feeling a part of something larger. And we also want to share why, support like this matters. Shared tools and peer learning have strengthened project capacity across Ontario. Smaller and rural projects do have more equitable access to learning and professional development. So we thought it's so important to say what we risk with the loss of a project like ours, where there's increased likelihood of fragmentation and isolation if there isn't a structure that replaces the network or the network doesn't continue. Increased gaps between well-resourced and under-resourced sites, and loss of sector-wide learning, mentorship, and evaluation infrastructure. So we thought it was just important to hold space for that. Next steps. So we've submitted the funding application for 2026. And so we're preparing how we will transition to the new funding model, always focusing on strengthening coordination and knowledge sharing, and continuing to benefit from and look to maintain leadership from the coordinating committee. It's vital. They do such important work and really keep us going. And that's coming to the end of the formal presentation. So I would like to thank our representatives from Public Health Agency of Canada. I know how busy your days are, so it's wonderful that you're here. Gratitude to the coordinating committee members, our zone chairs, and of course to all the network members for your participation, insights, and ongoing contributions. Much, much gratitude. So thank you, and I'll stop sharing. And we're at 3:41, so we do have a bit of time for questions or comments if anybody has anything that they want to say. Any questions?
I just wanted to say thank you very much for this. This was great to hear, and I loved hearing about the knowledge transfer and everything, learning about your network. And thank you very much for inviting me, and welcome my colleagues if they wanted to say a few words as well.
I guess I'll jump in, Nicole. I echo. I want to say thank you very much, Sydney, and the coordinating committee, and all the zone chairs, and all the network, right? Blanca and I were on part of the PHAC evaluation. So PHAC is doing the 5-year evaluation of CAPC CPNP. Some of you may have also participated in the evaluation or had an invitation to. And we were asked about various things about projects, and the network was one that I know I highlighted, as well as Blanca, about the the worth and the value that you bring, to keep everybody coordinated, and the knowledge, the transfer of information, dissemination of information. So we too, continue to hope that there might be a change, as was in 2026. It's definitely going to be a loss, if not, but thank you. We want to definitely thank you for all the work that you do, because I know I enjoy going to the zone meetings and hearing all the great work that, and you helped coordinate those. So thank you. And my question would be, are we able to get a copy of the slide deck or a recording of this presentation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And yes, we also have our annual report that is just in its final stages of being approved by the coordinating committee. So all three of those resources will be available to share. Thank you, Nancy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sydney.
Yes. And thank you to Blanca, who's way by the back there.
Back in the corner.
Our constant support at our coordinating committee meetings. Okay, well, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll be comfortable holding the space for another moment longer. Okay. I do want to again thank you all for your time today. And just a couple of little announcements. We are very close to having a date for our Father Focus event. I think you'll see in Friday's newsletter registration. I think we have a really great speaker lined up. It sounds very exciting. And we, as we mentioned in the presentation, keep your eyes out for the launch of the evaluation toolkit. That'll be happening sometime in the summer, maybe early fall, and hopefully a lot of other learning opportunities. And keep an eye on the newsletter and on WebConnects, and you'll learn about all the things. So thank you. We all appreciate the support of all of you who have joined us today, and we look forward to ongoing connection and collaboration. I think that's all I have for my speech. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll hopefully our paths will cross again soon.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Sydney.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Sydney.
the sunshine. Thank you.
Nicole, I hope you guys are staying safe in BC there.
With the fires?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. For sure.